Hey there, will you look at that? So good to see you back. Thank you so much for clicking, and don't be a muppet and subscribe. Alright, today we've got a lot to talk about. We're talking about Tolkien. There is the man. So J.R.R. Tolkien on how World War One inspired the Lord of the Rings BBC Global. Now this, you might think this is about history, it's not. So what we're going to do, as you know, recently I've been posting a few videos where we were analyzing people's accents depending on when they were from and all that kind of stuff, but today it's going to be a little different. So this was recorded in the 60s. I'm not interested necessarily in the accent, but I will do a full-on speech pattern analysis of Mr. Tolkien. So without further ado, let's jump right into it.
If you really come down to any large story, it interests people, can hold them attention for a considerable time, or make stories practically always, human stories practically always about one thing, aren't they? Death. The inevitability of death. I don't know, would you agree with that? But anyway, that is what, there was a quotation from Simon Beauvoir that I read in the paper the other day, which seems to me put it in a nutshell. I think I'll read it.
Fascinating. I'm letting him speak.
It was apropos of the untimely death of a musical composer whom I've myself always been extremely fond, Carl Maria Weber, who died at 39 of tuberculosis. And the man who written his biography actually quotes these words of Simon. There is no...
Okay, so already there is a lot to say. I did the first minutes sort of interrupted. Let's now rewind back, and let's examine everything, because I'm already fascinated by his speech patterns. Did you notice the extreme speed at which he speaks? Well, there is an explanation for it, so let's go.
If you really come down to any large story, it interests people, can hold them attention for a considerable time, or make...
It's very interesting. People hold him attention for a considerable amount of time. So you notice how he's very fast and mumbles quite a bit, and it's one of those scenarios where he's probably subconsciously trying to avoid pauses.
Stories, practically always, human stories, practically always about one thing, aren't they? Death. The inevitability of death.
Inevitability of death. All right, so now in order to provide a bit of a deeper analysis, I might need to continue watching and listening for a little longer, but already a preliminary assessment, I would say that we are in the presence of ERS. Now, this in itself is not a form of disorder, but cluttering is, and I think we also are in the presence of cluttering. So it's both things. I'll tell you exactly what these are, but there are several possible underlying reasons as to why he speaks so fast and also tends to merge words together in combination with lack of pauses, and sometimes the presence of pauses in moments where, generally speaking, the average speaker won't place them. Sometimes this has to do with nervousness or anxiety. I mean, it could be he's in front of a camera, but he doesn't look nervous to me. Sometimes it's lack of confidence, but definitely not the case with his takes. Racing thoughts is one of the reasons that could be behind extreme speech patterns, and I think this could be a thing. It's something that happens with some people who have a very fast mind, and so it's as if their ability to speak struggles when it comes to catching up with how fast their thoughts are produced in their mind. And then there is another thing that is called subconscious rushing. We'll address that, but let's continue listening, and then I'll go deeper into this.
I don't know, would you agree with that? But anyway, that is what, there was a quotation from Simon Beauvoir that I read in the paper the other day, which seems to me put it...
Even the fact that he fills some of the silent moments with... is also connected to these patterns that I was mentioning.
In a nutshell, I think I'll read it. This is apropos of the untimely death of a musical composer whom I've myself always been extremely...
Wow, of a musical composer who I've myself always been extremely... It's so fast.
Fond, Carl Maria Weber, who died at 39 of tuberculosis. And the man who written his...
Even that little short sentence, and the man who's written his
biography actually quotes these words of Simon. There is no such thing as a natural death. Nothing that happens to man is ever natural.
When he reads, it doesn't have that. Did you notice that he was reading now, and all of a sudden, his speech pattern has slowed down and has become natural? How do we explain that? Well, because he's not using his own mind to create those words. Now he's reading someone else's words. Therefore, the cognitive area in the mind that is used, in this case, constantly rushing, is on pause. And that's why the speech became natural.
His biography actually quotes these words of Simon. There is no such thing as a natural death. Nothing that happens to man is ever natural.
Nothing that ever happens to man is ever natural. It's staggering. The difference is tremendous.
Was the ring. People do not fully understand the difference between an allegory.
He already switched back into using his own mind. Did you see that? It was so clear that now you can't unsee it. If you hadn't noticed that in the first time we watched, and you hadn't noticed that monumental difference between when he reads and when he speaks freely, well, here you have it.
And an application. You can go to a Shakespeare play and you can apply it to things in your mind if you like, but they're not allegories. At least most of them are not. There's more allegorical elements, for instance, in the...
I'm having trouble understanding him, and I'm fluent in English. I mean, English is my second language. I'm not native. So maybe if you're native and you understand him regardless of the mumbling and the extreme speech pattern, then do let me know in the comments. Or if you're struggling like me and you have to rewind a little bit, then once again, I will be fascinated to receive that data from you.
You can go to a Shakespeare play and you can apply it to things in your mind if you like, but they're not allegories. At least most of them are not. There's more allegorical elements, for instance, in the Tempest than the most, but...
Okay, now I got it, but then again, I'm reading the subtitles. Without subtitles, I think I would have had to rewind once again just to catch two words that I had trouble fully understanding because of the lack of enunciation.
But certainly, I mean, many people apply it to nuclear, the ring, particularly the nuclear bomb, don't they? I think that was in my mind, the whole thing is only an allegory of it. Well, it isn't. I first began seriously to invent languages about when I was 13 or 14. I've never stopped, really.
I sympathize with that, actually. When I was 14, precisely, I was trying to invent my own language, so that did happen, interestingly enough. Well, let's see what he's going to show us. Oh, he's writing. Is it? Oh, it's Elvish, isn't it? Oh, this is actually nice.
Languages have a flavor to me, which I never understand people saying, for instance, it was awfully dry and dull, because a new language to me is just like taking a new wine or a new sweetmeat or something.
I actually agree with him completely on this one. Interesting how he pronounced. For instance, it wasn't even fully pronounced at that point. It was literally cut. For instance. That looks beautiful.
What I'm doing now is to try and write in Elvish, because my writing is very inferior to the Elv. Their standard greeting when meeting, a star shines upon our meeting.
There's a little trilled R in there. Probably a remnant of 1800s pronunciation. R. It was slightly trilled.
And that stands for Ellen, Sila, Lumen, or Menti Elvo.
So there is a connection to Latin with the word lumen right there. If this was Latin, however, meaning lumen, the way he read it, once again, it's Elvish. He could do whatever he wants. In fact, I appreciate this. I love it very much. But just to give you a little bit of an interesting fun fact, if you pronounce it like he did, lumen, you're basically pronouncing it in ecclesiastical pronunciation. It is very likely, by the way it has been reconstructed, that the way ancient Romans would have pronounced this word would have been with a fully nasalized N at the end. Lumen, instead of lumen, if you can tell the difference. And there are ways as to justify this. I've got a couple of dedicated videos. I might add links in the description if you're interested.
It's a rather beautiful language, I think. I wouldn't mind other people knowing it and enjoying it. But I didn't really want to make, like some people who've been equally inventive in language have done, sort of make cults and have people all speaking it together. No, I don't desire to go and have afternoons talking Elvish to chaps. For one thing, because Elvish is too complicated. I've never finished making it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about what I believe is happening when I open a page so we can have a look at what we are discussing, because science does have some things to say. So, as we read here, ERS is not in itself a disorder, but there is a speech disorder called cluttering that includes fast talking. In addition to speaking quickly, clutteredness crowds their sentences with fillers. Man, I know a few people that do that a lot. Insert pauses where they don't belong and use abnormal intonation. I'm not sure if we could identify any abnormal intonation there, maybe a couple of times, but not necessarily. Both ERS and cluttering can be hard to follow, but not for the same reason. This is fascinating here. A slowed down recording of ERS would basically sound like ordinary speech, whereas the accelerated cluttering would still contain a multiple of what experts call disfluencies. And I think it's both. So as we were reading here, researchers only recently began exploring the basis of what's sometimes called exceptionally rapid speech, or ERS for short. According to experts, I could be vocally talented, or I might have a well-managed speech disorder. Klaas Bakker, a communication science and disorders researcher at Missouri State University, said that he and colleagues took an interest in ERS a few years ago when they noticed that some people referred to them for cluttering were actually just exceedingly fast talkers. Bakker's team coined ERS to replace the technical term for rapid speech, I'm glad they did, tachylalia. Tachylalia. Am I mispronouncing it? Tachylalia? Which they felt sounded too much like a disorder. Well, yeah. After all, it wasn't clear to them if ERS and cluttering fell on the same speech disorder spectrum, probably not, or if they were entirely unrelated behaviors. In other words, are fast talkers just reformed clutterers who deserve a gold star for tidying up their sentences? No, I wouldn't say so. I think they're two different problems that can overlap, and it absolutely happens. But in general, I would say they are not equal and the same. People do speak very fast, and I myself am a little bit of a fast talker, and I remember that when I was in Japan, because I do speak Japanese fluently, and when I was in Japan, people would call me that, like they have a word for it, hayaguchi, which means like fast mouth, and they often refer to me as that. And I think, however, for me, it was a professional hazard, if you will, meaning that it's something I picked up because of my previous job as a full-time interpreter and translator. And sometimes I used to do these simultaneous translations between English, Italian, and Japanese, the three languages that I know the best. And of course, Italian being my main language, my native language. And so one thing that I would do is that I would be very fast, because of course it's not like you have all the time in the world to render a translation in the most accurate way possible, but in the shortest amount of time, particularly if it's a business meeting and the like. In general, I would say in a professional environment, you have to be precise and quick. So accuracy, speed, precision. It was a good job, but it was very, goodness gracious, I wouldn't want to do it again. After that, I went into teaching for 10 years, and honestly, I think teaching is much better now. Here I am on YouTube. What I did want to say, though, is that I have developed the sort of habit of speaking fast, but I've also tried to manage it a little bit and sometimes I do speak fast, but I try not to speak exceedingly fast, particularly when it could, in a way, undermine my ability to be understood. And at the end of the day, languages are all about communication, successful, in fact, communication when possible. Now, in his case, however, this is something that I don't think has ever been addressed in his entire life. Also, do remember that to be able to write the likes of The Lord of the Rings, I imagine he must have spent a monumental amount of time indoors by himself. And so if you don't engage with people constantly, and you have large amounts of time or large spans of time, this is why this kind of connects to the psychological realm a little bit as well. If you don't have a lot of opportunity to speak with people, communicate with people, connect with them, then a tether might be broken. And so what that happens linguistically is that you will speak, but your speech is not the most refined way to communicate. It is instead the fastest way to express your thoughts. And as I say, as someone like him, which I believe had an incredible mind when it comes to his ability for creativeness, his mind is constantly creating. In other words, his mouth is not at the same level as his mind. I'm just going to put it this way. It is a absolutely intriguing situation. Let me listen one more time to just a little repeat of this part after he reads.
Words or not. But those are the key spring of the laws of the ring. People do not fully understand the difference between an allegory and an application. You can go to a
I love the way he said that, application.
Shakespeare play and you can apply it to things in your mind if you like, but they're not allegories. At least most of them are not. There's more allegorical elements, for instance, in the...
Can you see how speed has priority over precision and full enunciation of words, to the point that some of the words are truncated and completely cut? I don't think he realizes that, though. In his mind, he has pronounced them. Or at least, he has, I would say, covered the stem of the word, which is enough to convey a meaning. And so he's just already moved into the next word, because what's the point of continuing to pronounce a word that isn't necessarily long if the meaning has already been conveyed? All of this is happening at the subconscious level, of course. It's not like this is a decision, willful decision. It's not. But it's pretty much what's happening.
The tempest in the most, but certainly, I mean, many people apply to
The way he laughed there, the way he smiled, it reminds me of a wizard, doesn't it?
a nuclear, the ring, particularly the nuclear bomb, don't they? I think that was in my mind, is that the whole thing is only an allegory of it. Well, it isn't. I first began seriously to invent languages.
I actually like that he specified that, now that we go a little bit outside of the realm of the topic that we were addressing. But I do appreciate that he specified that. Like, people are saying that it's an allegory, the ring, the one ring is an allegory for the atom bomb. And he's like, no, it's not. And I can already imagine all these people, because, I mean, it does happen a lot, and usually it annoys me, when they build all of these unnecessary elucubrations over a topic, and then they say, in this passage, the author is trying to express this connection to this substrata of the... And they go into all of these things, and then at the end, the author is like, no, it's not. It's just a magical ring. I mean, not just a magical ring. I'm not trying to belittle the incredible narrative device that the ring was within the novel, but it's not the freaking nuclear bomb. It's not. So when people add that, it's like, if you want to see it, and you're like, for me, the ring could be a representation, a symbolic, if you will, of the destructive power of 20th century weapons of mass destruction and the way they were utilized by certain regimes, etc. That's fine. But it's when they attach it to the author that it annoys me, also because in this case he was still alive and could retaliate and provide clarification. But unfortunately, when they're dead, I wonder how many people have put stuff into Shakespeare that it was like, no man, that's just a ghost. Who knows? But anyways, this is today's video analysis. If you liked it, let me know, because I could do more. And in fact, if there are people that you would like me to kind of analyze their speech patterns, even at a greater level or at a deeper level, with more studies and a little more bibliography attached to it, could produce a little bit of a longer video, do let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching and joining Metatrons Academy. Goodbye.